Welcome to the Rental Property Owner and Real Estate Investor Podcast, brought to you by the Rental Property Owners Association, where real estate investors have found success since 1968. I'm your host, Brian Hamrick from Hamrick Investment Group. This episode is sponsored by Green Property Management, managing everything from single-family homes to apartment complexes in the West Michigan area. Find out more at greenpropertymgt.com. And RCB and Associates, helping real estate investors and small business owners navigate the complex world of health insurance and Medicare benefits at rcbassociatesllc.com. Hello and welcome to episode 500. So we have made it this far, 500. That's 9 years. I started hosting this show in 2016. It has been a fantastic experience. I hope to get to episode 1000. I'm having so much fun doing this show. And I've learned so much from talking to the guests, the incredible guests that we've had on the show. Before I get into this episode 500, I want to thank the Rental Property Owners Association, the RPOA, for putting this together, making this show possible. Christina at the RPOA has been just instrumental in marketing the show, turning us into a top 1% podcast. And also, Christina does all of our graphic design and email blasts when the show comes out. Really been a great asset to the show. Daniel, who edits the show, thank you very much. I couldn't do this without you. Our sponsors, currently Green Property Management and RCB Associates. You guys are great, and I really appreciate your sponsorship of the show. And you, the listeners, hanging in there with us for 500 episodes. I don't know if you've listened to all of them, but they've all been extremely valuable, and I've learned a lot from them, and I hope you have too. So a lot of people have asked me, Brian, what are you going to do for episode 500? Because it seems like it calls for something special. So I thought what I would do, I've given it a lot of thought and I've gone through different ideas, but I think what I'd like to do for this episode is just talk to you myself and share a story with you. Share a story of a particular challenge that I am facing right now with one of my properties. And I think you'll find this interesting. Hopefully you'll find it fun. But this story is about a challenge that we're facing, what at times has seemed like an incredibly hopeless situation with this particular property that we are now turning around very deliberately. But it's been a real challenge for the 2 years that we have owned it. And one of those challenges was Hurricane Helene, which I'll get into here. But before I even talk about that, let me go back further when my partner on that project, Alex Jarbo, and I first met when he was a guest on the show. And he was talking about building A-frame vacation rentals in Western North Carolina. And I really loved what he was doing. I love the fact that he was a military veteran and seemed very capable. So we kept in touch after he was a guest on the show. When he came across this property, we got it under contract. So let me tell you a little bit about the property. It's called Engadine Inn Cabins. It's just an incredible property. I mean, I fell in love with this property the first time I saw it. It's 13 acres in the Blue Ridge Mountains. We're at the base of the Pisgah Mountains. You can actually access hiking trails into the Pisgah Mountains from our property. And it consists of a historic bed and breakfast, which is 6 bedrooms, 7 bathrooms. Each bedroom has its own bathroom, and 6 cabins on the property. The previous owners had hosted weddings, other types of events. They had really leveraged the bed and breakfast. And when we bought this property, we had in mind, okay, we're going to transform it from a bed and breakfast into more of an Airbnb type property. That's going to be our game plan. And we're going to just maximize bookings through the OTAs, the Airbnbs, the VRBOs, Expedia, all of the ways that you would market and maximize your bookings. So it really seemed like a no-brainer. So even before we bought this property, Alex had spent a lot of time with the owners and had really gotten his arms around, okay, what are the challenges with this property? How do you operate the property? So that when we closed, we were able to hit the ground running. And Alex was able to do that when we closed. And we had a couple good months there, but we reached a point after taking over the property where we thought, okay, maybe we should bring in a professional third-party short-term rental management company that is even better than we are at operating, managing, and maximizing revenue on a property like this, because it's a very specific type of property. We really wanted to turbocharge our bookings because that's how you maximize revenue, right? You need to turbocharge your bookings, get more guests staying with you, increase your average daily rental, increase your occupancy. We felt that with the software, the property management software we were using, kind of the team that we had in place, it wasn't quite going to get us there. So we made what was really the first big mistake we made on this property, is we went looking for a third-party property management company that specializes in these types of properties. We found what was considered at the time to be one of the top 3 property management companies in Asheville, North Carolina, specializing in this type of property. And they were using a better property management software. And the property management software basically allows you to do direct bookings. It gives you a lot of functionality as to how you interact with Airbnb and VRBO. And they were using the property management software that we really wanted to be using. So we thought, okay, let's switch over to them. They gave us projections, just incredible projections of how they were going to turn our property around, maximize our revenue. And what we found out after about 2 months of them not telling us the truth was that not only had our bookings dropped to almost nothing, but we were going into the peak season, which in Asheville is the fall, September, October, November, and we didn't have any bookings. So that really set us back. We had to scramble, take over management once again ourselves, try to get more bookings, which at that point, it was a real uphill battle. That was our first big mistake, was trusting this company that really in the end ended up, it turned out that they were lying to us. We kept trying to get access to the property management software so we could see what was going on with our bookings, but they kept telling us they were having technical difficulties. What was really happening was they were transitioning from the property management software that we had hired them to be using in the first place to the same property management software that we had been using. Once we actually did get visibility on our bookings, it turned out that they hadn't really booked anything. In fact, they told us that they had booked a wedding that never occurred. So we were being lied to, and that was a real setback and a real shock. And I'll tell you, one of the things that I've learned about vacation rentals is you really sink or swim depending on what property management software tool you use and how well you're able to use it. And because they interact with all the different OTAs, the Airbnb, the VRBO, and there's so many different friction points in between all those things that can make your visibility go completely to zero on Airbnb or VRBO or whatever. Or if you're using it right, it can really open up a whole new audience to you. So we were really struggling with that. So even after taking back over the management, we knew we needed some help. So we actually found another third-party professional property management company that specializes in these types of properties, but only this time, instead of just being located in Western North Carolina, they were worldwide. So it was a bigger company with a bigger footprint. And we thought, okay, these guys really know what they're doing. So we brought them on board. After a lot of getting to know each other back and forth, we brought them on board. They actually had a much better system in place, but we were still struggling. And one of the things we were struggling with was that they were hiring local people to do our maintenance, to do our cleaning, but they were a remote company. And the people that they were interviewing and hiring weren't vetted properly. So we had a maintenance person that they hired who actually within the first month, it turned out to be a good maintenance person, but they also turned out to be stealing from us. And one day our tractor went missing. Our $10,000 tractor. The maintenance person basically convinced us that the cleaning lady had stolen it from us. And when we confronted the cleaning lady, she quit. But it became pretty apparent later on that it was our maintenance person who had actually stolen the tractor. And we filed a police report against him, but the tractor was never recovered. And there were some other things that went missing. And it really set us back. I mean, that was at least $10,000 that we lost because of this thievery. Finding the right kind of help and having a management company that's hiring remotely really turned out to be problematic. But we stuck with them because they were putting a lot of effort into it. I mean, they were acting in good faith, doing their best, putting in extra effort, but it wasn't paying off. We were getting into March, April, and our bookings had just dropped off a cliff. We weren't getting the bookings. And at the end of the day, we realized, okay, this is a problem. We cannot continue with this company because they're not showing real progress. So it wasn't a tough decision, but it was a very careful decision because are they making progress? And we just need to give them more time. We gave them more time, but our bookings did not increase. So we ended up firing them and bringing management back in-house. In the meantime, we're doing all the things that you need to do. We got professional photographs. We improved the property where we could. We were making local connections. And one of the connections that we made, and this was actually through our second property management company, was with a local wedding planner. She was very good, and she was helping get some wedding events at our property. After we fired the second third-party property management company, we actually brought her in to manage the entire property for us and be kind of our boots on the ground, manage the property with Alex supporting because he's boots on the ground there too. And we put in some other people. We found some good cleaning people. Oh, one of the cleaning ladies, this was funny. The previous management company had hired a cleaning lady who lived 3 hours away. She and her boyfriend would come and clean the property, but they drive 3 hours. So if we needed anything from them, if we had a last minute booking, they couldn't handle it. So that was a little frustrating, is having the cleaning people who didn't live within 20 minutes of the property. But after we fired them, we brought on this new person to kind of be our manager. We also found a good cleaning crew after going through a lot of interviews. Very hard to find good, dependable cleaning people. And we found some other team members, and we had a really good management team in place. We also determined that through a couple recommendations, especially from the previous owner, we decided we're going to hire a really top-notch marketing company. And that marketing company had also, the name of the marketing company is Whitestone Marketing. And they're like one of the top marketing companies for properties like ours, resorts, bed and breakfast. We hired them. They're very expensive, but they pay for themselves. And they had really turbocharged the bookings for the previous owners. And that's who had recommended this company to us. So we had them in place. We started getting more and more bookings, and things were starting to really look up. I'd like to take a moment to tell you about Green Property Management. Not only do they manage everything from single-family homes to apartment complexes in the West Michigan area, they also manage my entire portfolio. So I can tell you from personal experience that their unique flat-fee management style is worth a closer look. If you feel that your property isn't operating to its fullest potential, then Green Property Management can help you take a holistic approach that will save you money, eliminate your headaches, and increase your net income. And if you're a property manager interested in applying Green Property Management's model, give them a call at 1-866-95-GREEN or visit them on the web at greenpropertymgt.com. If you're thinking of leaving your W-2 job and becoming a full-time real estate investor, one of the greatest costs you must consider is healthcare for you and your family. When I made this transition myself, I found the whole healthcare insurance process to be confusing and frustrating. That's why I'm glad I met Chad Creasy at RCB and Associates. Chad is a professional health insurance agent who helps real estate investors and small business owners understand and choose their best healthcare options. And best of all, his services are covered by the insurance company and won't cost you a dime. If you live in Michigan and are expecting a change in your healthcare insurance coverage for any reason, or losing employer coverage or transitioning into Medicare, then you owe it to yourself to contact Chad Creasy at rcbassociatesllc.com. The high season in Asheville is September, October, November. So going into September, we were looking really good. And we had put together this incredible marketing campaign, this incredible marketing push to take off right in the beginning of October. But guess what happened at the end of September 2024? That's when Hurricane Helene hit. So who would have thought that a hurricane would hit Western North Carolina, which is 400 miles inland from, any ocean or salt water. But that hurricane came straight up north from Florida and hit us. You may have seen the episode that Alex and I did where we talked about the devastation, what was going on there. Luckily for us, when that happened, there was really no damage to the property. In fact, we were able to host aerial recovery, ex-special military guys who come into disaster zones like the aftermath of Hurricane Helene, and they do rescue recovery. They stayed with us for 6 weeks, started doing like rebuilding and just really helping the community. So we were proud to host them, but we weren't getting any income from that. But at the same time, there really wasn't any business to be had because people had stopped coming to Asheville altogether because Asheville, a lot of portions of Asheville was underwater. It was looking pretty bleak at that time. So we had to really just stop and regroup and rethink, what do we do now with this property that we don't know if there's ever going to be any guests anymore because the bookings have pretty much stopped. So we actually shut down for about 2 months. We just closed and we said, okay, let's figure out what we're going to do. And we paid a lot of attention to, okay, what is Explore Asheville, some of the local Asheville groups and their projections as to what happens to Asheville after this type of devastation. Obviously, there's a lot of triage. What is lost and what can be recovered? Asheville has done a really good job of rebuilding so far. As we record this, it's early July of 2025. So we're about 9 months, 8-9 months from that hurricane. And if you go to Asheville now, you'll see where the hurricane and the flooding happened. But most of it, 95% of Asheville, is back up and running and doing quite well. People don't realize that, though. A lot of guests still, a lot of people who would otherwise come to Asheville as tourists for the tourism season are kind of writing it off because they still believe that it's underwater and everything's been washed away. And it could not be further from the truth. But we were faced with this challenge, and it made us stop and think, what do we do? What are the options on the table here? And all options are on the table, okay? All options on the table. What do we do? Close and wait for things to get better, which is essentially kind of what we were doing. Another option is to sell. Let's just sell the property. And we actually talked to some brokers about selling our property. And they told us we wouldn't even list this property until summer at the earliest, because all you have right now, of course, are vulture buyers, people who are looking for extreme discounts because of properties that are distressed. So we wouldn't get our money back. We wouldn't, we'd have to basically take a huge haircut. That wasn't a viable option. The next option was take what we have and build back using what we have at our disposal. Fourth option actually was invest a lot more money into the property, add more cabins, and just really assume that business will come back. And we will not only survive, but thrive as business builds back. And New Orleans was a good case study for us because the Asheville people had data from New Orleans that basically showed, okay, there was a lot of devastation and a real downturn for about 2 years after Hurricane Katrina happened in New Orleans. But after that, the businesses that were left standing did really, really well because they were able to survive and thrive. Projections for Asheville was more in line of, instead of 2 years, it was going to be anywhere from 9 to 18 months for that turnaround to happen. We had to stop and really not just figure out what's our best option, but what else can we leverage at this property that will help boost our ability to recover and rebound from this devastation. And it's interesting because in some ways, the hurricane actually pointed us in some new directions that we would not have otherwise been aware of or thought of. And one of those things is that on the property, we have a creek that runs through the lower corner of the property. But when we bought the property, we were barely aware that this creek even existed because it was down at the bottom of the mountain. There was a lot of trees and shrubbery, and it was pretty much inaccessible unless you wanted to kind of like hard scrabble down the side of a mountain. We really didn't give it much thought. We thought, well, it's nice that it's there, but it's not really something that we can access. But what Hurricane Helene did was it washed all this debris down that creek, and it widened the creek and made it deeper. And then when aerial recovery stayed with us, they wanted to land their helicopter. They were flying Chinook helicopters in with supplies and everything, and they needed a flat area to land the helicopter to unload supplies. And it was across this creek. So they needed to carve a path down the side of the mountain, over the creek, and to this kind of helicopter landing area. So they actually opened up access to that creek for us. What we did after they left, and while we were kind of waiting to figure out, okay, when are people going to come back and stay with us, is we built a set of stairs. And I should give credit not only to Alex Jarbo, my partner there, but Ward Henderson. Ward works for me. He's my GSD guy. And if you don't know what GSD guys do, they get shit done is what they do. I told Ward after the hurricane, I'm like, I need you to go to North Carolina, work with Alex, let me know what's going on and what we're going to do to turn things around. So Ward and Alex built a set of steps going down to the creek. So while they were building these stairs, Alex really started thinking about fly fishing. Fly fishing is a huge activity in Western North Carolina, and a lot of the fly fishing locations had really been damaged by the hurricane. But here we have this creek now that could be used for fly fishing. So he called around, and the first call he made was right up this. There's a company in Canton, North Carolina, which is 6 minutes from our property. And there's a group there called Mountain Fly Anglers. They have a storefront right there in Canton. They do outfitting. They take people out for fly fishing excursions. And he talked to the owner, Doug, who was just about to start calling around himself to see if he could find some private locations where he could start bringing his fly fishing groups to do some fly fishing. And he came out to the property, absolutely loved our creek, and thought it would be a great location for fly fishing. So we wanted to carve out part of this creek to make it better for fly fishing, sort of reorient it so there's some deeper pockets where the fish could stay cool in the hot summertime. And at the same time, the excavator, within 2 days, carved a switchback road down the side of this mountain to our creek. So completely opening up access to this creek, which has now transformed the property because we can market it as a place where not only do you have water access, because one of the things that if you have access to water, any sort of water feature, that's a huge thing for a vacation rental property. So whereas before you can maybe see the creek through the trees, now you can walk down this really nice wide switchback road. You can even take the golf cart down it to sit at the creek. And if you want to do guided fishing, Doug will take you out there and do fly fishing. And he's brought many people out there. They love it. You can see on our YouTube page for Engadine Inn Cabins, people fly fishing. Mountain Fly Anglers is his company. We've really turned into a premier fly fishing location. That really opened up this whole new avenue. And that's what it's all about. It's about figuring out, okay, how do we leverage different activities that will drive more bookings to our property? Fly fishing was one of those ways. Then we have some other things that we've added to the property. And I have to give credit to Alex because Alex and Ward have driven a lot of this. Some of the other things that we've done to add more amenities, create more packages, revenue drivers, and drivers of bookings. Here's a couple examples. We have found someone who will do high tea, kind of a fancy thing that they do at the Biltmore property, which the Biltmore Estate is probably the biggest tourist attraction in the Asheville area. It's just this incredibly huge mansion, previously owned by the Biltmore families, turned into kind of a museum. You can get tours through it. If you really want to see how the top 0.1% lived, the Biltmore Mansion is where you go. And they have incredible, beautiful gardens. And they're open, of course. High tea is something they do. And we thought, well, our property, Engadine Inn Cabins, has a lot of history. And part of that history is a connection to the Biltmore family. We used to have a vineyard that grew the grapes for the wine that the Biltmores used to produce. Some of the Biltmore family would actually come to Engadine to party. So we have a history there of the Biltmores being on our property, partying in our very beautiful Victorian house. So leveraging that history, really calling out that history, and we're figuring out ways to really promote that history. So that was one way, but high tea is a package that we offer. We brought bees to the property. We found a local beekeeper who makes honey. And on our property, we have a special tree, and I can't remember what type of tree it is, but it's very rare, and it's probably the biggest one as far as our beekeeper has told us that's in the Asheville area. And the bees love it. They're making honey, and we'll be selling that honey. We're repropagating our grapevines because we have the genetics for the original grapes that the Biltmores used to use to make their wine. We're planting more and more grapevines. We planted fruit trees on the property so that we can produce a lot of fruits, grapes, honey, things like that from our property. These are all things that are helping us kind of turn the property around. Another revenue driver that we have is we're working with a company in the Asheville area that does pop-up picnics. And they'll come out to our property. We have a really beautiful pavilion, and they will host picnic events. So if someone wants to propose to someone, or there's a special event and they want to do a special picnic, they'll come to our property, and we get a cut of that cost that the pop-up picnic place is doing. We don't have to do any work. They just bring the people out, do all the work themselves, and then they just pay us for letting them use our property. Weddings and events, we're doing those. We're slowly building back up into that, but it's a beautiful location for weddings and events. Hosting corporate events, we could certainly do small groups of up to 12 people in our house. We have a beautiful dining room. And then one of the things that has been a real positive trend in the short-term rental world is wellness activities. And we have aligned ourselves with a group that does wellness activities. Like they'll come out, if someone wants to hire them to do a massage, these are upsells that we can offer to our guests, massages, tarot card readings. They do something called a sound bath. They do yoga, they do goat yoga, all kinds of wellness activities, guided hikes, things like that we're able to offer to our guests as upsells, and we'll be offering packages. We're seeing our bookings turn around. I mean, it was very slow April. May, we actually saw quite a few bookings. June, we saw a lot of bookings. And then as we go into July, August, September, October, November, we really expect to be turbocharging, and we're putting everything we have into doing that. So right now, the immediate goal is to increase our bookings and revenue as quickly as possible. So what this really comes down to is a marketing challenge. Now, a lot of people are using AI to do their searching. They'll go to ChatGPT. In fact, I just planned my summer vacation using ChatGPT. The question is, how do we show up in those AI searches? So what Whitestone Marketing has told us, and what I've learned from other sources, is that in order to show up in these AI searches, you really need to establish your brand and authority online, either through blogs or postings, podcasts, cross-promoting yourself with other businesses that mention you. That establishes authority and helps with AI search engines. So what we are doing with Engadine is we're starting a new podcast that's meant to let people know, that Asheville and Western North Carolina is open and ready for business. We are not underwater like the media might have you believe. And a lot of people still believe that. It's not true. Asheville is 95% back in business. The Biltmore is open. Basically, everything you could do last summer, you can do this summer right now. So we're doing a podcast. And then through the magic of AI and streamlining, I'm going to take that podcast and use ChatGPT to help write up the show notes, transcribe the podcast, and also turn the podcast into a YouTube video, Substack page, LinkedIn postings, Facebook postings, short clips for Instagram, and possibly even TikTok. So we're just going to wallpaper all social media. But the beauty is the podcast is focused not just on Engadine Inn Cabins, it's focused on any business in Asheville or Western North Carolina that has been affected by the hurricane. We're going to integrate them into the podcast. We'll mention them. They'll mention us. Engadine Inn Cabins is hosting the podcast, and it is called Asheville Reboot. And you can listen to that podcast on any podcast platform. Look for Asheville Reboot. It's live now. You can check it out. Anyway, that's our plan to help really turbocharge Engadine and turn it into not only like a positive revenue generating property, but really one of the best places to stay in the entire Asheville area. The property, once again, is called Engadine Inn Cabins. It's just a beautiful location. If you've been watching this on YouTube, you can really see the property, get a good sense of it. And we just love this property and want to share it with people. So anyway, there you have it, 500 episodes. It's been just fantastic. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I thought it would be fun to share a story about a particular challenge that I'm facing in my portfolio. I'm sure I'll have more over the next 500 episodes. And I want to thank you for being a listener. And I look forward to getting to 1,000. Have a great day. I want to thank everybody for listening to this episode. I'm your host, Brian Hamrick from Hamrick Investment Group, and you can find out more about me by going to higinvestor.com. That's higinvestor.com. And you can also ask questions and join us on Facebook by going to RPOA, Rental Property Owner and Real Estate Investor Podcast. This episode was sponsored by Green Property Management, managing everything from single-family homes to apartment complexes in the West Michigan area. Find out more at greenpropertymgt.com. And RCB and Associates, helping real estate investors and small business owners navigate the complex world of health insurance and Medicare benefits at rcbassociatesllc.com.
You've been listening to the Rental Property Owner and Real Estate Investor Podcast, brought to you by the Rental Property Owner Association. You can find out more at rpoaonline.org. If you enjoyed this podcast, please go to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and review.